Megan's terrifying impact continues as a new Coronation Street video reveals shocking consequences still unfolding. Despite all the elegance, confidence, and dramatic flair that Coronation Street character Eva Price brings to every scene, one quality has always stood above the rest: her unwavering devotion to the people she loves most. It now appears that her daughter, Susie Price, has inherited not only Eva's fierce sense of loyalty, but also a sharp tongue and fearless attitude to match. The entire Driscoll family has been dragged into a living nightmare ever since they arrived in Weatherfield and took control of the Rover's return. Ben was left completely devastated after discovering that the man he had believed was his biological father for his entire life was not actually related to him at all. The shocking truth revealed that he was conceived during an affair between his mother Maggie and Jim McDonald. Maggie only finally exposed the secret because she feared that Ollie could unknowingly become romantically involved with his cousin, Amy Barlow. As if uncovering the truth about his real father was not traumatic enough, Ben has also learned that he may have inherited the same dangerous heart condition that ultimately claimed his father's life. At the same time, the family has been shattered by the horrifying revelation that Ben's youngest son, Will, had been groomed and sexually abused by his predatory sports coach, Megan Walsh. Megan's disturbing pattern of manipulation stretches back far beyond Will's ordeal. Another tragic victim of her psychological abuse is Sam Blakeman, the stepson of Eva's sister, Leanne Battersby. Megan subjected Sam to relentless emotional torment and cruel manipulation for such a prolonged period that he is now battling severe mental health difficulties. Although Sam courageously informed the family about Megan's behavior, Will's refusal to speak openly and the absence of concrete evidence meant the authorities had very little power to take action against her. After watching so many members of their family suffer because of Megan's actions, Eva joined forces with Leanne and Toya Battersby in a desperate attempt to pressure Megan into confessing. However, Megan remained completely defiant throughout the confrontation. Her cold determination and absolute refusal to admit guilt proved impossible to crack, no matter how intensely they confronted her. Just when the situation appeared completely hopeless, especially with Will still emotionally trapped under Megan's influence, an unexpected intervention from Tim Metcalfe finally changed everything. His involvement helped Will begin to recognize the horrifying reality of how deeply he had been manipulated and abused. While attempting to make his way to the airport inside Tim's taxi, Will planned to escape the country alongside Megan. However, Ben and Eva soon realized something was terribly wrong after discovering that Will had secretly taken his passport. Quickly piecing the situation together, they contacted Tim and urged him not to allow Will out of his sight. During the emotional taxi journey, Tim decided to speak honestly about his own traumatic experiences as a teenage boy involved with an adult woman, Tricia Pinkerton. For many years, Tim had dismissed the relationship by convincing himself that attitudes had simply been different back then. However, learning the truth about Will's abuse forced him to completely rethink his past experiences. Although he had previously rejected Sally Metcalfe's insistence that he himself had been abused, Tim was finally able to recognize the disturbing reality of what had happened to him. As Tim drove Will toward the police station, he gave the teenager a life-changing choice: either run away with Megan or finally report her crimes. It soon became clear that Tim's heartfelt words had deeply affected Will. Instead of fleeing, he walked into the station, reunited emotionally with his family, and finally delivered an official statement to police describing the abuse Megan had inflicted upon him. However, the ordeal is far from over. Even though Will is now trying to rebuild his life following the traumatic events, the entire family continues to struggle with emotional scars, conflict, and fresh challenges resulting from everything they have endured. In a newly released spoiler clip, Eva storms home from school with Susie and angrily informs Ben that the young girl has thrown a fizzy drink bottle directly at the head of Bryn, the son of Chesney Brown and Gemma Winter. Standing proudly with her hand planted on her hip and radiating confidence, Susie boldly tells her stepfather that she is actually a good shot. When Eva and Ben question her about why she threw the bottle in the first place, Susie explains that Bryn had been gossiping at school about Will and Megan supposedly having done stuff. She then awkwardly asks Ben and Eva whether the rumors are true, only for the tense moment to be interrupted when Chesney and Gemma suddenly arrive demanding answers. It now appears that even after Megan's arrest, the chaos and destruction surrounding her actions continue to spread throughout the Driscoll family. Even the youngest members of the household are now suffering the emotional consequences of her crimes. Coronation Street has dropped a major preview tease for an upcoming episode, showing a dramatic twist in the ongoing Theo Silverton death mystery involving Summer Spellman. The clip features George Shuttleworth and Christina Boyd making an unsettling leap regarding Summer Spellman after discussing her possible involvement in the death of Theo Silverton. The pair were already aware that Summer did not have any fondness for Theo, but in this newly released scene from Monday's episode, they begin to suspect that her resentment may be far more intense and deeply rooted than they previously assumed. While going through her diary entries, they read that Summer holds Theo responsible for the death of Billy Mayhew and even describes him as a monster. This leads George to question Christina on whether Summer could potentially be the killer behind Theo's death. Christina then responds with the chilling remark, "It's often the quiet ones, isn't it?" just as Summer unexpectedly enters the room. Realizing immediately that they have invaded her privacy, Summer becomes furious after discovering that George and Christina have been reading her diary without permission. The scene carries a slightly comedic tone, as George and Christina are casually eating snacks while going through her personal writings, a contrast that would understandably enrage anyone whose private thoughts were being exposed in that way. Still, the moment raises a serious question. Have they actually uncovered a disturbing truth about what happened to Theo? Next week's episodes place Summer Spellman at the center of several intense developments, including her internal struggle over whether leaving for university in the United States could be interpreted as an admission of guilt. Her situation becomes even more complicated when Lisa Swain discovers evidence that appears to place Summer at the scene of the crime on the night Theo died, resulting in her being brought in for police questioning. Meanwhile, George recalls additional details from that night that make Summer look increasingly suspicious. However, she manages to redirect suspicion back onto him, which in turn raises doubts not only about George's own involvement, but also casts a shadow over Christina's behavior as well. The identity of Theo's killer will not be revealed immediately, but actor Harriet Bibby, who plays Summer, offers a strong defense of her character, arguing that the emotional stakes are extremely high. She explains that Theo's actions have deeply affected multiple lives, including that of Todd Grimshaw, and leaves viewers with a key question. Would Summer be capable of killing in order to protect what remains of her family?